let's talk about Drupal usage statistics. Yeah, there is a lot of talk on social media about Drupal adoption and the future of Drupal and if Drupal is still relevant. Well, I looked at the numbers and I want to show my findings, and they are very, very interesting. I mean, I'm a big Drupal fan. We are building a product on top of Drupal, NodeHive Headless CMS. So I'm very involved, and also I like to see Drupal growing. So let's look at the numbers. So one statistic you can take is the statistic from BuildWith. They crawl websites and they identify the technology that is used on that website. So here I have enabled top 10, top 100K and top million sites. And yes, you see the peak with this data was around 2021, and since then it's going down. That's, that's some data. Yes, the number of installed sites is going down. If we look at the top million pages, you see it's roughly 2.5%. Sites, if you look at the top 100K websites, the top 100K biggest websites, it's 5.6%. And if we only look at the top 10,000 sites, the graph is slightly flatter, and that was actually quite interesting. In the top 10K sites, the biggest sites that exist, almost 7% are built on top of Drupal. To even simplify it and maybe exaggerate a little bit, 10% of all the biggest websites are running on Drupal. Simplify that. So, well, it's still declining. The question is why. There is another data we can take, which is the Drupal usage statistics from Drupal.org. So this is basically a report that shows that is using the update status. So there is a mechanism in Drupal which pulls the composer file and then basically with the versions, and so you can combine your local installation with the actual latest versions and to actually make an upgrade. And we can use this data, or the Drupal community can use this data to also analyze the number of installs. Obviously, a lot of people have disabled this module, so it's not the true data. Also, data could be counted multiple times because probably you have a stage system and you have a production system. If you measure that over time, it's certainly an indicator if there are more sites or less sites over time. And actually, this graph is very crowded. So basically, all the versions, including version 5, which is super old, are crumbled into this graph, and there is a huge table with the historical data. And you see, obviously, the Drupal 7 is the red part is the biggest one, and Drupal 7 is now officially unsupported. So certainly there are still a lot of sites, but actually there is no longer it's no longer recommended to run a Drupal 7 site. And this was announced many, many years ago. And actually it was announced during 2021. And ever since then, most likely lots of people who were on Drupal 7 actually went maybe to another system or maybe updated to what I would call modern Drupal. So there was a technology update between Drupal 7 and Drupal 8 Plus, which was much needed to basically modernize Drupal core and to basically to bring Drupal to the modern world. And this transition already started 10 years ago. So Drupal 8 is now almost 10 years old. And so actually we should look at the data of modern Drupal if we want to see if it's growing or if it's not growing. And if you look at this data here, and you look at, obviously, since 2016, when Drupal 8 was launched, it's growing. So this share is actually growing over time. Obviously, the total amount of sites, including Drupal 7 sites, they are declining, but modern Drupal is growing. So I simplified this table and I made this modern Drupal usage statistics graph. And it's very interesting to see. It's really simplified. So basically I summarized all the subversions. So we have now Drupal 8, Drupal 9, Drupal 10, Drupal 11. And you can clearly see that, well, Drupal 9 or Drupal 8 and Drupal 9, they're already unsupported because they are previous versions. The current stable version and recommended version is Drupal 10 or Drupal 11. Many people still use Drupal 10 because all the contributed modules are there. And I think the upgrade path or the upgrade to Drupal 11 should happen in 1.5 years or so. I don't know it by heart. But you see, Drupal 10, Drupal 11 is growing. Drupal 8 is kind of stable or going down. I think these people can easily migrate to Drupal 10 or Drupal 11, as well as Drupal 9 is going down. The overall statistics, total, I don't see the decline here. So that motivates me to say modern Drupal is stable. It's actually not only stable. If you compare the data from 2 years ago to today, it's actually growing. So roughly 5 to 10%. This is not a big growth, but it is growth, you know? And now we have Drupal CMS, like a productized Drupal version, which is easier to install, easier to adopt. And I really expect this data to kind of go up from here. So the overall Drupal installation will grow and eventually even explode. So there is a lot of potential with modern Drupal, and I really highly recommend to not talk about Drupal, but actually to talk about modern Drupal, because Drupal 7 is really now a thing of the past. Yes, there are still many sites running on Drupal 7. Very likely a lot of these people will maybe use another system. Hopefully they will also switch to Drupal CMS, but I'm very happy to see that modern Drupal statistics are stable and even growing a little bit. And I'm also happy to see, if we compare the top 10K sites, the Drupal adoption is very high. Let's compare it with Adobe Experience Manager, the big enterprise product. And you see, it's also, let's go to the top 10K sites. So also here it's going up, that's fine, also had a little bit of downturn. But if you compare this number, 3% of the top K sites, so it's Drupal usage base of the top 10K websites is double the size of Adobe Experience Manager. So I would say Drupal is in a very good shape to be a leading content management system today and in the future. There is a lot of other aspects we have to talk about in later videos, like the modernization of the front-end stack. I'm a huge fan of Drupal as a headless system. I think the future of Drupal is headless. There will be other videos about it. So consider subscribing this channel and see you in the next one.